This video is designed to introduce you to Scratch. And what Scratch was a tool that was developed by MIT to allow us to jump in the deep end, so to speak, and start coding without actually having to write code, but using graphical blocks and so forth, puzzle pieces to help us start thinking creatively, there's the word I was looking for, and to start thinking about programming things in steps and organizing and the concepts, the overall concepts of coding. So rather than just blah, 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 let's just jump into it and I'll introduce you to the program. So I'm in my browser and I've gone to scratch.mit.edu. You create a login and go ahead and do that. Once you log in, you'll be taken to a screen that looks like this. And in order to get started, first thing we'll do is click on this little option that says, this little menu that says Create. And after it spins for a few minutes, it's going to create your first program, so to speak. And here's what you should see. Let me explain a little bit of what you're going to be looking at here, the tools that you have available. We have the ability to create a game, and that's what we're going to be doing here. And in our game, we have sprites. And so those are just the little characters that obviously react in our game. I probably don't have to explain that to you. So in this case, we give this default sprite of a cat. We have a stage, which is currently just white, so we might change that backdrop. I'll show you that in a moment. This part of our screen is showing us is the actual code that's going to be running, so we can see it working here. Here are the puzzle pieces that we're going to be connecting in order to create our game. And then there's different categories that do different types of things. And we'll look at some of these things here in this video. We'll also play with some sounds, I believe. Okay, so let's kind of get started here and see what it is that you're trying to talk about. All right, the very first thing, well, let's see, just for fun, the stage is this backdrop. So I'm going to create a new backdrop. I'm going to click on Choose Backdrop from the library. You can import a file if you want, but just for fun, I'm just going to choose something simple from their library. So I have a backdrop to my game. Okay, so now we have to make our sprite do something, okay? This is costume, so you can change the way he looks. So by clicking on it, I went to here, this costumes tab, but I'm going to go back to scripts. Scripts is where we're going to start putting our puzzle pieces together to make our sprites do something, and actually we'll create a game. So let's see, let's just start off simple and see what happens. In order to start the game, the user is going to click on this green flag, okay? And so what we have to do is, where this category is that says events, I'm going to click on that and I get different puzzle pieces, if you can see that here. And I'm going to slide this puzzle piece over to my coding area, my editor, so to speak. And it says when the user clicks on this green flag, and then we're going to put the steps underneath here of things that are going to happen when that flag is clicked. Well, nothing's happening right now because we don't have any steps. We haven't told the program what to do. So I'm going to click on stop to stop that. So let's do something like when the user clicks on the flag, or when we start our game. This is an event when something happens when we first start this game. How about if we play a sound? So I'm clicking on this sound option and I'm going to pull this puzzle piece over. And I keep saying puzzle piece because you'll notice that these puzzle pieces fit together where appropriate. So when the user clicks on the green button, play a sound. So let's see if that happens. When we click on the flag, the sound in fact played. Okay. Maybe we want it to meow 3 times. So let's try that. So when I click on the flag, well, it sounds like it's only once, doesn't it? That's because these are all playing just exactly as the computer is, the statements are laid out here. It almost sounds like they're all being played all at once is what's happening. So let's try something a little different. I'm going to slide them all off in order to delete them. And what I'm going to do instead is choose this option that says play sound meow until done. And so that if I put them 3 times now it'll play the sound, and when it's done, it'll execute the next command instead of doing them all at once. So do this. When it's done, do this, etc., etc. So now we should have 3 meows going. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. Well, that makes sense, but this is a lot of repetition, isn't it? And so when we start thinking about code, we want to start thinking about writing things that we don't have to keep repeating ourselves over and over again. And so what I'm going to do is pull 2 of these away. But you said you wanted it to play 3 times. Yes, I did. That's very true. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose this category that says control. And control gives us the ability to do what we call looping. So we can loop more than one time. So in other words, here's this repeat button. So what we're going to say is repeat 3 times. So notice now that I have a block, a puzzle piece that's a block. It has puzzle pieces that can fit within it, and it's going to do this same block of code 3 times. So whatever inside this block, it'll repeat 3 times. So now we don't have to have 3 repetitive statements. It's just going to repeat 3 times. So let's see that happen. Fantastic. So our output is still doing the same thing, but from a coding standpoint, this is more efficient because we don't have a lot of repetitive code. Okay, well that's kind of boring. There's not a whole lot interesting going on there. So let's do something different. I'm going to drag that off to make it go away. Okay, so let's move our little dude, our little sprite, our little cat. I'm going to click on motion. And we'll choose this one. It'll say, I'm going to drag this puzzle piece over. And that puzzle piece says move 10 steps. So I'm going to go ahead and try and run that and see what happens. Okay. So when I clicked on the green button, it moved 10 steps and it stopped. Okay, well, let's try something else. Let's go back to that control. And I'm going to choose this loop that says just keep doing this over and over again. And let's keep the cat moving 10 steps over and over and over, because this is in this forever loop. It's never going to stop. All right, let's try that. So the cat moved and it kind of ran off the screen, and we feel like, well, the game's still going, but if I drag the cat over, it's still going to go. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. At least we've got it moving, but that's not really we want it to keep moving within the screen. So let's put a stop to the game and drag this little dude back over. And this time, let's do this. Let's see. Let's say, that if it, if it hits the edge, then bounce. So forever move 10 steps. If it's on the edge, then bounce. Let's see what that does for us. Okay. We're moving along anyway. Okay. All right, so let's try something else. The next thing I want to try is when the sprite hits the edge, let's have it play a sound. So there was a condition there, right? If the sprite hits the edge, then do something. So what I'm going to do is, let's pull this out. Now if I put it over here on the edge of the stage, it's not really doing anything because there's no, it's not connected to this event or to this flag when clicked. So I'm just going to let it sit there, or you could drag it back over here to delete it, or right click on it and choose delete, whatever you want to do, but I'm just going to set it aside here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the control, and I'm going to choose this if statement. See where this says if block. So this is a block of code that if a condition, whatever goes in this funny shape polygon, then do the code that's in here. If this doesn't evaluate to true, then don't do what's in this code. So what I'm going to do is put this underneath. So keep moving 10 steps. And each time you do that, I want you to test a condition. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into sensing. And sensing has to do with sensing this little sprite's environment. And if this little sprite is touching, so notice the shapes. Notice this shape looks like it fits right into it, just like a puzzle. Looks like it would fit into that, so it's appropriate to put that in here. So if my little sprite is touching, I'm going to click on the drop down. If he's touching the edge, then, let's see, I'm going to go here into sound, and let's play a sound. Okay? So right now I have mew. We can try that. So in other words, continue to move 10 steps, constantly doing that because it's in the forever block. But each time you do it, each time you come into this loop, test to see if the sprite is touching the edge. And if it is, then play the sound. But continually do that. So let's see what happens. Uh-oh. He didn't bounce, did he? We forgot to put our bounce back. So we better put him back. And then say maybe we'll have him bounce after he's done with his meow. Okay, so let's see what happens there. All right. So you see how organizing our puzzle pieces into, and you can say the descriptions out loud, just sort of talk yourself through it, and then put puzzle pieces to match what it is that you're saying. Okay, let's take this a step further. Alright, I am going to right click on my little sprite. I'm going to choose info and I'm going to not show it. Okay, so that I can keep this here, or you can delete it if you want. I'm going to start a brand new game with a different sprite, but if you want to keep this little sprite here so you can have that code for reference, you can. So right here there's a choice that says new sprite. So I'm going to choose a new sprite from the library. And I'm going to click on animals, and there is a really cute little puppy that I think I'm going to choose for my new sprite. So this is going to be the new character. Oh, there he is. Okay, so where did he go? I just have a slow internet connection. Okay, so now notice when I click on the dog doesn't have any script associated with him because nothing has been assigned to, the dog hasn't been told to do anything. Our cat has a script assigned to it, but we're not using it at the moment because it's not visible. Okay, so, or you can delete it, whatever you want to do. Okay, so let's figure out what we're going to do with our dog. So what I'm going to do, again, I want the dog to do something when the user clicks on the flag. So we're going to go back to events and choose when the flag is clicked. So when the flag is clicked, let's have the dog do something. Okay. I think what I'm going to do with the dog is under motions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the dog to always go to the mouse pointer. My idea here is that I can click and drag and move this dog around my desert scene here. So let's see if this happens. When flag clicked, all right, so I click on it and the dog definitely moved to sounds like my cat's still busy doing something too. So my dog definitely moved to the, I'm going to stop that awful noise. My dog definitely moved to the mouse, but then nothing else happened. Okay, it was a one-time deal. So because I don't want to hear the irritating cat anymore, I'm going to delete that. All right, so we're just down to the dog. So let's try and run that again, hopefully without that awful noise now. The dog did move to my mouse only once, and then nothing else happened. So we're back into that idea of, well, let's do it constantly. So let's put that move to the mouse pointer in this forever loop. So when I run it, the dog should always be moving my mouse, moving towards my mouse, which it does. So that's good. All right, now what shall we do? Okay, let's add another sprite. Well, first of all, let me also throw this concept to you that we have one process that's going on. We have the dog that's doing, the computer's doing one thread or one process. This is a single thread, a single process that it's going to be doing constantly throughout this game. We're going to do multi-threads, so we're going to add another process. We're going to add another sprite. And I think every puppy likes to chase a ball around, so I'm pretty sure down here somewhere I have a tennis ball. There it is. So I'm going to add a tennis ball sprite to my game. Okay. So now remember I have two processes that I'm going to start. So I need to also add my event. So when the flag is clicked, we're going to have two processes, two threads that are running. One thread that's going to be processing the dog script, which we've written here, and another thread that's going to be processing the tennis script, and they're going to be processed together at the same time. So what shall we have our tennis ball do? Well, again, let's put that forever loop in there so it's constantly doing something. And what we're going to ask the tennis ball to do is we're going to go into motion. Let's have the tennis ball move. Well, granted, it doesn't step, but that's the way this is set up. So we're going to have it move. And again, if it hits the edge, it's going to bounce. Okay, so we've got two processes going at the same time. Let's see if it works. The ball is moving. That looks good. It's bouncing, and my dog is following the cursor, the mouse. So all looks good so far. All right, so let's add one more sprite to the ball game, or to the tennis field, or to the desert here. Let's add a new sprite. I'm going to click on this little guy, choose sprite from library. And what dog doesn't want to chase around a donut? Okay, so there's going to be our third sprite. Okay, so now we've got a third sprite. We've got another process. So like all other sprites, we want to do something. When this flag is clicked, we want the sprite to do something. So we're going to add back our control forever. And we're going to ask our donut to also, now I want it to do the same thing that the tennis ball is doing. So what I can do is click on the tennis ball, drag these two steps over to the donut, drop it on the donut, which will copy that code into my donut script, and I can just drop it there. All right, so now I have the tennis ball moving, I have the donut moving, and the dog following my cursor. So all is looking well. Things are looking good so far. Kind of boring, but we'll see what we can do to spice that up a little bit more. All right, well, so far that's okay, but this is kind of boring watching these two just go back and forth. Not really anything happening. So we're going to change this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this for the moment. I'm just going to set it here as kind of a holding area for me. I'm going to click on, I'm going to use this random generator. So I clicked on operators, and this is going to give us a random number picker, random generator. Let's go back into control, and let's say if, remember our if block, so if there's a condition that evaluates to true, then do something. And so in this little polygon, we need to put in a condition. And so what we're going to do is click on sensing, and what we're going to say is if the donut hits an edge, so that's going to be my condition. If the donut is, here's my condition, touching drop down edge. So if the donut is touching the edge, then do something. And what I'm going to have it do is we're going to have it turn. So I need to go into motion. We're going to have it change the degrees in which it bounces off the edge. So we're going to have it turn. And instead of having this static 15 degrees, we're going to have our random generator choose the amount of degrees that it's going to bounce off of the edges. So I'm going to pick something like between -45 and 45. That way it could go various directions. And then we're going to have it bounce off the edge from there. And I still need my moving, so that goes above the if statement. That's not a conditional. We need it to constantly be moving. So constantly loop through, move 10 spaces, check to see if now that the sprite or the donut is touching an edge. If it is, randomly pick a degree between -45 and 45, and bounce off the edge in that degree direction. So let's see if that changes up our donut's behavior any. And it hits the edge, and sure enough, now we've got a little bit more motion going on, so that looks a little bit better. Great. Okay, so now I'm going to stop it, and I'd like to copy that block over to my tennis ball. So all I have to do is click on this block of code. I'm going to drag it over the tennis ball, let go of it. You see that the code still remains here in my donut, but it's been added also, hard to read, but there we go, into my sprite for the tennis ball. So now I'm going to drag this piece away and replace it with this if block. So now the tennis ball should also be randomly bouncing off these edges in different degree directions. So let's see that happening. Okay, so that's looking a little bit better. We've got some more, a little bit more random motion going on here, and then my dog is still doing his thing, following my mouse cursor. Okay, so now let's add some other some variant onto this. We need to do some kind of condition in order to stop the game, or have a little bit more, maybe have more interaction with our sprite dog and the donut and the tennis. Okay, so let's put in a condition. We're going to go back to our control, and we're going to say if the dog is touching the donut, we'll have it do something. So if while I'm dragging the dog sprite around, it come into contact with the donut, what we'll have it do is say something. So let's go into sound, and let's see, I think it's in looks that I want it to say. There we go. So in the looks category, I'm going to have it say. Now say is a function. It's something that MIT has written that says, I don't know how it's working. It's MIT's making all that code work. So say, but I can send it whatever I want it to say. So this is something that can change. I don't want it to say hello. I want it to say yum, yummy. Okay, and you'll see more about functions when you do the Python example in your assignment. But we're going to have it say yummy for 0.5 seconds. So let's see that happening. So, we don't have a condition here. So the condition needs to be, let's say if, I'm going to click on sensing, if the dog is touching, and I'll click on my drop down, if the dog is touching the donut, then it's going to put up a little yummy balloon say box. So let's see that happening. So we run, and then we come in contact, and we saw the word yummy for 5 seconds. See how that works? Okay. All right, great. So now it's going to happen when the dog comes in touch with the tennis ball. Well, let's pull out another control, and we're going to say if. So if the dog is touching the donut, do something. If the dog is touching the tennis ball, what shall we have the dog do? So if the dog is touching the tennis ball, let's have it bark. So we'll go into its sound, and the dog has a dog sound, and maybe we'll have it bark 3 times. So I'm going to go back into control, and we'll have it repeat. See if I can slip it in there. There we go. Repeat 3 times. We're going to have the dog bark, that bark sound. So let's see if that happens. So now, yummy, and we have to come in contact. Oh, okay. Sure did that. Remember, we have to, instead of play sound, let's do play sound. There we go. We encountered that at the beginning of this video. So now let's try that. Good. Okay. And why don't we do this? Once the dog catches the ball, the game ends. So we'll go into control, and we'll say, after the dog, I'm going to put it right here. Very careful where I put that stop statement. I want it to repeat 3 times, and then when it's finished repeating 3 times, then do the stop statement. So if I had put the stop in the repeat, it would have just stopped the whole program. But I want to put it outside of the repeat, but still within the if block, because I only want that to stop the entire code if we're in fact touching the tennis ball. So the game will end when we touch the tennis ball after the dog barks 3 times. So let's verify that. And the game ended. All right, so what you're going to do ultimately when you're done creating your game is obviously you're going to give it a name. I'm going to give mine Desert Dog. You're going to want to click on this option that says Share. I probably have to save it first, so I'm saving it. Click on Share. And what you're going to do then is you're going to put, maybe if there's some instructions that the player needs to know about, some notes and credits that you might want to give. If you've done some research and done some extra things that I didn't include on the video, you want to make sure you give credit for where you found the additional code. So it shows inspirational implementation rather than copy and paste. And then what you'll do is take note of the URL, this link up here, and that's the link that you're going to post in the discussion so that other people can come and see the game that you've created. So this is the link you're going to copy and paste in your discussion board so we can all see the creative work that you have accomplished over this week. I look forward to your projects.